Okay, I hope you can see my board okay. It seems to all be in the picture. Okay, let's get going straight away then. If people are wondering why I do live classes now, it's just because it's much quicker and easier to put it onto YouTube. It takes much longer otherwise. So I wanted to do draw phrasal verbs for some of my students. They're quite confusing, but they're considerably less confusing if you remember that draw has two meanings. I think most people know the meaning of draw, yeah, like draw a picture. But a lot of people seem to be unaware that draw also means move, or especially pull. And think of the word a draw, which you pull, and you actually pronounce that the same as the verb draw. And so draw does mean to pull or attract. If you are drawn towards something, so draw towards or to be drawn towards, it means you are attracted to something. If you are drawn towards, I don't know, medieval poetry, that means you are attracted to medieval poetry. So please remember that second meaning of draw, because that's actually what most of the phrasal verbs over here refer to. They refer to being pulled or attracted to something. So let's start with draw on, which is a tricky one. The first one I want to consider is that, because there's two different meanings really with draw on. In fact, there are probably three, because I think it can also be used for approach, meaning get closer, especially in terms of time. But I'll look at that in a moment, and we'll change that to three, I think. So draw on, firstly it can mean drag on, meaning go on for too long. If the meeting dragged on for several hours, it means that the meeting drew on for several hours. It means that it lasted too long, it was boring. It sounds like it was boring in some kind of way, it was tedious and you were sick of it. You wanted it to last just 10 minutes, but it drew on for several hours. So that's one meaning, drag on, same as drag on. Second meaning would be to make use of, and this is very common. You could say something like this. You could say, drawing on his experience with metals, he wrote an essay on metallurgy. Yeah, and that would mean making use of his experience with metals, or summoning up that experience, having recourse to that experience. Quite similar to call on here, which is when you make use of some kind of inner energy or some inner skill, some kind of skill you have, you call on that skill or that talent to make use of it, and you could draw on that skill or talent as well. So that's at least two meanings. And then lastly, you could say that as the evening was drawing on, meaning as it was getting later and later. So not really approach actually, but more like going by, as more time went by, as the evening drew on, meaning as it got later and later. So I suppose it can also mean get later. When you say as the evening drew on, it kind of means as it got later and later. Okay. We can also say draw back, meaning pull back. If something draws you back, it pulls you back, it attracts you in the other way. And I want you to remember here that we have benefits and drawbacks. Drawbacks are disadvantages, very similar to setbacks. Okay, if you suffer a setback, then it's a drawback in some kind of way. So a drawback would be a disadvantage. But if something draws you back, it pulls you back, it holds you back. So it can certainly be used meaning to attract someone back here, or to pull someone back. You can draw away from something, which means just withdraw from something, to walk away from something. If you draw away from something, you're often walking away from something, or maybe you're driving away from something. You can draw away from the station in your car, certainly, meaning drive away from the station. And you could pull away from the station as well. Remember, we use those pull phrasal verbs very often for driving, and pull out, pull in, pull away. We very often use those as well. If something draws two people together, it makes them attracted. It makes them attracted to each other. It pulls them together. So draw together again is very much in the physical motion kind of sense. If you are drawn towards something, then you are attracted to something. Something pulls you towards something. And if you draw something out of your pocket, you take it out of your pocket. That's all. You withdraw it from your pocket. And if you draw you draw your car into the parking space, then you go into the parking space. So many withdraw are very similar to go, very many, or pull in some kind of way, but they mean movement, withdraw, very often. Okay, let's come up the top now to draw up. Now, if you draw up a plan or you draw up a list, it just means you make a plan or make a list. And that's one way where it's very often used. You could ask your lawyer to draw up a new will or something like that. But draw up can also mean pull up. I can say his car has drawn up outside, meaning his car has pulled up. His car has approached my house and stopped. And draw up can mean approach, okay, kind of like I've just said. But you can draw up a chair, meaning just pull a chair out and then sit on it. Draw up a chair would mean pull a chair out from under the table and sit on it. So there are many things that you can draw up. You can use that in a number of different ways as well. Draw out, this can mean to make something longer than necessary, to prolong. So very similar to the meeting dragged on, the meeting drew on, you could say he drew the meeting out for as long as he could. He drew out his speech for as long as he could. Maybe he wanted to prolong it. He wanted to make it as long as possible. And so he drew it out for as long as he could. Very similar to draw on, but slightly different, because you say the meeting dragged on or the meeting drew on, but you say he drew the meeting on. He drew the meeting out. Sorry, I'm getting confused. He drew the meeting out for 3 hours or something like that. But draw out can also mean bring out or reveal. So if you say she brings out the best in him, you could also say she draws out all the best qualities in her colleagues, meaning she helps to reveal all of these qualities. So if qualities are drawn out, they're brought out, they're revealed in some kind of way. Again, we're dealing with motion. We're dealing with that motion that they're drawn out, they come out, they move out, you bring them out. So draw is a movement verb. If you draw somebody into an argument, you drag them into an argument, you pull them into an argument. It's another very common use of draw when you attract someone into something they don't want to be involved in. And drag is definitely something that they don't want to be involved in. So he dragged me into this fight, or he dragged me into a concert I didn't want to go to, or he drew me into a concert I didn't want to go to. Drag is probably more common there. But certainly you can draw someone into an argument, meaning pull them into an argument. Okay, if the concert or the festival drew in a lot of people, it means it attracted lots of people. You see that the link here is attract or pull. The festival drew in lots and lots of young people. But you can also say the evening was drawing in, the evening was approaching, the night was drawing in, the night was approaching. So it can also be used in that sense. And if you're drawing off a liquid, this is usually a chemical expression. It's used for chemistry when you have a siphon and when you're separating two substances, two liquids perhaps, two immiscible liquids, two liquids that don't mix. Then you draw off the bottom liquid, leaving just the top liquid there on its own. So that one's a very chemical kind of phrasal verb. Okay, that's all I have for you with draw at the moment. If you have any questions, ask them now, because I'm going to turn it off any second. But I will try and come back and do phrasal verbs with call within the next half an hour. I just need to write them up on the board. I just need to draw up a list, of call phrasal verbs. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Please put questions under the video, and if I get time I'll answer them later, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye bye.